Okay, so this is a longer than usual video, about 30 minutes, maybe more once I put the intros and outros in. So yeah, there's just so much going on in this project. It started out just being, an experiment to see if I could make a zombie shark, because I just had this inspiration to make a zombie shark. So a zombie shark is what I started. Okay, that's enough with the zombie shark. It's just, so I got like a bunch of model magic out, did it, started shaping the body, and then I thought it would make things easier if I used the heat gun to dry it out. No, it does not help, in case you're wondering. It just does not. I mean, it'll dry out the very outer part, but to really dry out the inside, especially something as thick as this, you really do need to wait a few days, maybe a week. But it did do one thing that helped me out. I was able to dry out the outer part, and then in order to do all the designs, I was able to do all the designs because the outer part was dried up. And so, take off the dried dead skin, and so that's where that helped. So that was a good experiment. This whole thing was a great experiment. Even the fails were a great experiment. And then I used the toothpicks. I needed something hard that could resemble a rib cage. So I got the toothpicks, broke them in half, and tried to make them look like broken ribs. And then I wanted to take this project even further. So I wanted to make the zombie shark, put the zombie shark inside of an enclosure. And so I got some pieces of cardboard that was way too big, made things way too complicated. I don't realize that until later, but here we are, cutting things out, super hot gluing things in, and then priming and painting the platform, which was supposed to look like a pool where the shark was just sort of placed in for experiments. And this yellow ochre that I am using for the sides of the pool, I really, really hate that. I really hate that. Put down the gray, and then I put the yellow ochre back over. What? I don't even know what I was thinking. I decide I want one of those caution strips around the thing, which is, a good idea if you know how to do them. I'm like, all of this is like first time for everything. And at this point, I'm thinking, okay, this is just going to be a first-time experiment diorama. Meaning, when I do the real thing, I'll have this to look back on. This isn't going to be the real thing. This is going to be like the equivalent of me drawing it out, except drawing it out took over a month. Wait times for paint drying, model magic drying. You'll see I just went overboard on the details, which is not a bad thing. You want to go overboard on something, on details, go for it. If it makes you happy, man, it made me happy, because I'm like, oh my god, this is looking so cool. I mean, it's just a rough draft, but it's feeling cool just doing it. And so also after I get done with everything, with all the painting, I get the pool ready, and I realized, well, I can't have the shark just resting on top of the pool. That's just weird. Alright, now where am I going to put this shark? Where it's going to look like zombie-ish and alive. Well, I screwed that up. So I had a better idea. a much better idea, because when I started putting this together, it looked like my favorite scene from one of my favorite games from one of my favorite TV shows, Lost. They had a video game called Via Domus. I'll show you what it is in editing. But yeah, that is one of my favorite shows, Lost, and one of my favorite scenes is when you go down into the looking glass. And if you don't know what I am talking about, the looking glass is an underwater experiment. It's an underwater lab where they experimented on sharks and dolphins and other marine life. And so when you go down there, what you see in chains and straps hanging is a dead shark, a dead great white shark. And I'm like, oh my god, the detail on that was actually really good, and honestly one of the more morbid things you see in that game. And because I mean, it's a video game aimed for a family audience, so there's not much blood, but there is a dead shark, and the whole looking glass looked really cool. So my goal wasn't to make this diorama into the looking glass, but I am now inspired by the looking glass, that scene, to hang this shark in this room, this diorama, to make it look like it was being experimented on, and have some other experiments around the platform, and like especially making a little bridge to, you know, from going from to reach the damn shark when it gets pulled out of the water, and then also to make it look like it all got abandoned out of nowhere, leaving the shark hanging to rot, which is really gruesome. And I would never, if anyone ever did that to an actual shark, that's very violent, and I am not including that. That is just how much I love sharks. I'm scared to death of them. I am really scared to death of them. But that is because I have a healthy respect. It's a healthy fear. I know my place in the water. It is not mine. It is theirs. Before all this, my goal was I was thinking of doing like a leather strap. Like leather straps. And then making chains out of, you know, string, coloring them silver. Then when I made the leather straps, put them on, oh, it looked awful. It just looked so awful. And even though it was supposed to be a rough draft, I didn't like it. But just moving on, I just moved on. At this point, I didn't know what I was going to do with it. So I just moved on. And until I figured out what I was going to do. And that's what you got to do sometimes with projects. If you hit a crossroads and you don't know what to do with something or how to fix something, do something else. And your mind will figure out how to fix it or how to go forward with the other thing. That's what I did. I put up the walls, and here I guess I was just trying to be fancy smancy. Look at that fancy smancy model magic door. Yeah. I'll put the glue, put the bricks, and I'm not patient, so of course heat gun, more glue, and then of course I put tissue paper. So I'm really loving doing this tissue paper. And it actually doesn't do such a bad effect. And then here is my thing for the Mod Podge. The black in the Mod Podge. Black paint in the Mod Podge. And use that as a primer. And being that there's Mod Podge in there, makes whatever you're putting on there, it reinforces it. It makes it stronger. So that is what I'm going to be using Mod Podge for, is to make whatever material I'm using stronger. And a primer. You know, there's black paint in there now. It does make a good primer. Put more black paint on. And now dry brushing and making the walls. Now, I didn't put bricks on this other wall because I wanted to see, because this was an experiment, I wanted to see the difference between putting the bricks down and giving the wall some texture versus a flat cardboard wall. Honestly, I preferred the flat cardboard wall. I was just really trying to be fancy-smancy with these bricks. But yeah, I dry brush with the silver, a lighter silver, and then the door and the doorway copper, and dry brush, like I'm over brushing on some of the wrinkles around the things, around the bricks, to signify make it look like copper wiring. So that's what I'm doing with that. And the best to my ability. I absolutely love making bridges with toothpicks. When I was in 5th grade, we had a competition in our class who could make the best bridge out of toothpicks, and my group won. It held about 26, it was either 26 pounds or 33 pounds. I can't remember. My memory is not good, but I do remember it was either one of those two numbers. I don't know why those two numbers are just what's floating around my head. It's one of those two in pounds. And before it snapped. And that was pretty cool. And really anything can be used for supports as long as it's not too durable, like balsa wood. I don't know. I couldn't get balsa wood to work with bridges. I did that in the 10th or 11th grade. I did that with, and the balsa wood just didn't, 2 pounds and it was done. And I did the exact same. And everyone else's everyone else's did the same thing, just a little bit of pressure and the balsa wood just snapped. And everyone had great designs, really good. And I don't know, but here we are. I haven't done it in a while, so I'm a little rough with it. I'm not really going for too sturdy. I'm going for some sturdiness, but mostly effect wise and practice for when I do it again. And then yeah, spikes. Don't ask why, but I just felt like I was in a spiky mood. So there's spikes. And layering it with the black Mod Podge to, of course, give it some more strength, and a priming, and using it as a primer, because then I'm going to go over the railings with the, looks like gunmetal. Yeah, I think it's the gunmetal. And then I mixed in some plaster and glue and white paint and made it into a texture the stuff that they use for surfaces that can become slippery when wet. That's what I did. And then I took that same mixture and I added paint and might have added more water to it. But anyways, I was doing this for intention of making a gesso because this metal is so metally, and the store-bought gesso I have that was not the Martha Stewart one is not really that good. It barely holds on to anything, and it was definitely not going to hold on to this metal. So I made my own and I used it, let it dry. Oh, and besides metal, this metal contraption, yeah, I made these pipes. This is gonna be pipes out of a storage rack type thing. Very, very cheap storage rack for shoes. And I was gonna use it for my shoes. I was gonna use it for my crafts. But when I started putting it together, I'm like, I don't want to do this anymore. So I am using it for crafts. I mean, and it's very useful, very, very useful. And all you gotta do is just, gesso, paint, and then overbrush with silver. After the black wash dried, I used copper on it. Now that everything is dry, it's time to glue this on. Now, I've never used this glue before. It's the Gorilla Glue Super Glue that is supposed to set in 10 seconds, and I will tell you, and I will show you, they lied. Look at me, I'm trying to keep it together. Eventually, I just got a chip clip and clamped it. 2 days later, and I'm making water flowing out of plastic wrap. Never done this before either, so this was an experiment, trying to get that together, and then filling up these holes with tissue paper, because it's gonna look weird if they're not filled up. And here is the new water effect experiment I decided to try out. This Gorilla Glue, which sets in 2 hours instead of 10 seconds. That is a lie. That 10 seconds is a lie. Tell you, it took hours for that to set. Hours. And then I didn't dare take the clip off of it for at least 2 days, because I'm like, man, this whole thing is just lies. This whole thing is lies. Anyways, sorry about that. Gorilla Glue, paint, and loop everywhere. Loop. And then, hey, this is about when I got my printer, my 3D printer toy box. And had some alchemy tabletop things. And I thought, oh my god, this is gonna look great. Looking like failed experiments around the edges. So yeah, I printed out a bunch of the broken thingies. Whoa, what are they called? I don't know what they're called. They're broken thingies. And then one of the this dude. And just paint because it's PLA, because it's plastic, I spray painted instead of gessoing, because they'll have a lot of little details on them, and the best way to get into those little crevices is spray painting. So I got some, I think it's Rust-Oleum. Oh god, I can't remember. black paint and primer, and I also got a white one on that's just a flat white primer for other things, and just sprayed them. They dry in like 20 seconds, and then just paint, because I hated the stupid leather straps. I went and 3D printed some chains, some hooks, and some chainmail, and spray painted them a little bit of silver, or more like a dry brush silver. I even did up little bases for those glass broken container things, just to put around, like as if there was going to be more experiments, but they never got around to it. And of course, I am like really concentrating hard on this. More goop. I like this goop. And black wash, which is, by the way, the recipe for the black wash I got from Black Magic Craft, and it's pretty much, he has 2 recipes. He's got this one that I'm using, and a very complicated one that I am never going to use. Well, I'm not going to say never. I might use it, but it just seems like too much for me to deal with. But this is the recipe I'm using is just a little bit of black paint, or whatever kind of wash you want, whatever color wash you want, that color paint, a decent amount of water plus dish soap, and there's no set amounts. Just gotta experiment and see how you want it, because everyone wants different shades of everything, so just experiment, see what you like. That's pretty much what this whole thing is. All this crafting, it's all experiments. Right here, yeah, we had an unfortunate accident trying to get the strap off, so just filled it in with some red ink. I'm super gluing all the chains everywhere, because, was gonna get like little hooks and hook everything together. But these 2 hooks are the only ones I could get that small and actual functional. And the thing is, I could not even get them in the chainmail, so the chain that I printed fits. So I just glued the chain to the chainmail and then hooked it up to the pipes. And here we go. Creepy underwater laboratory, abandoned laboratory.